Alrighty, welcome to the 107th edition of Before the Battle here live on YouTube. I am Nick Baldwin of BloodyElbow.com, joined as always by Jed Meshew of MMAfighting.com. Unfortunately, 2 shows in a row, Wes Riddle of MMAsucka.com unable to join this program, this episode, but congratulations to him. I know he's not here. We shouldn't be, talking good about him. But congratulations, he did graduate university, or I guess college, over the weekend, just last week. So congrats to Wes. Hopefully he's here next week. But nonetheless, Jed, you are here. You didn't pull out last minute. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, though I do believe in pulling out last minute. So it's always important, guys. It's better than pulling out too late. Pulling out last minute is better than pulling out too late.
That is some good advice.
I am a strong font of advice today. Speaking of advice, I've got some advice for you, Nikolai.
Yeah.
You should go to MMAfighting.com and check out the UFC 224 preview I did with Luke Thomas. That video just went live 20 minutes ago. Give it a check. It's awesome. We had a lot of fun. We talked about the fights, kind of like you and I are going to do, only with probably a smidge more professionalism and a lot more facial hair. So go give that a peep. And then we can continue.
Who's more fun to talk to, Luke Thomas or I?
You do not want the answer to that question.
I'm thinking Luke doesn't.
Guess
or
what?
MMA Fighting doesn't. Because I know the answer is me, but you work with Luke and he's attached to your employer. You don't want to piss them off, you know.
I'll tell you this. I have Luke's cell phone number. I do not have your cell phone number. So just take that how you will. You know, just take that how you will. But we are digressing. Yeah, he's an enormous individual.
So perhaps that is why you have his cell phone number.
Or maybe because we're just really good friends, bro. Anyway, the important point here that we need to make.
I guess before the battle's canceled. I'm kind of
awesome. I would love to have my fight.
All right. What are you saying?
The important point is that we do not need to congratulate that cowardly man, Wesley Riddle, for whatever he accomplished. No one cares, Wes. You didn't show up when we needed you. You left your boys in the trenches taking grenades. But we do need to congratulate our friend, my friend, sort of, Nick Baldwin, the winner of last 3 weeks ago's picks contest with an 8-3 record. You, Nikolai, took down the picks of UFC Atlantic City, the Kevin Lee versus Edson Barboza fight card. You only missed on 3, and those 3 were Brett Johns, Santos, and Barboza. Wes and I both went 7-4. Just not enough to take the cake there. Also, by way of recap, since I'm rocking and rolling, I'm just going to keep going. Well, look at that. Who's your DraftKings champion? None other than I, Jed Meshew, 443 points. Kevin Lee putting in a lot of work there. I had 3 people who just gave shit performances, but 2 pretty solid ones, and then a third that was okay because Corey Anderson also a lot of points there. Wes Riddle second place, 391.5 points. Nick, you brought up the rear hard in the DraftKings, 275. It's rare you see somebody win picks and lose DraftKings so dramatically, but you managed it. Way to go, you. And then as far as our bonuses go, Wes retains his belt because we went a big goose egg. All 3 of us got none of our underdog picks right, none of our fight of the nights or performance bonuses right. Your performance bonuses went to Dave Branch and Baharazad. If I'm not reading it in front of me, I can't say it, so sorry about that. And your fight of the night was the Valashvili-Simon fight that ended in a little bit of controversy. So that is the end of that. Our recap is done. I can close that screen from my page, and we can move on to UFC 224. And quick question for you. We didn't discuss this with Wes Riddle. Are we talking Bellator at all today? I just have no idea.
I didn't plan on it, but I don't care. Should we?
Okay. Maybe we at the end. Maybe we'll just give a brief.
Depends how long we go with the UFC, because
or not. I have nothing to say about like 8 of these fights, so I think it's going to be pretty short. I'm excited about it. Let's get rocking and rolling.
I hope you're right. We often say it'll be short, and we end
up going. I genuinely have nothing to say about like every undercard fight. So,
all right. Well, let's see if you can hold up to that. First fight of the night for UFC 224, which goes down tomorrow night. That is Saturday at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We have Amanda Nunes, Pennington women's bantamweight title on the line in the main event. But first up on UFC Fight Pass, kicking off at 6:15 p.m. Eastern, 3:15 p.m. Pacific, we got Marcus Perez taking on James Bochnovic in the middleweight division. Jed, is this one of those fights that you just don't give one shit about?
I don't give two shits about it, much less one. I don't give any. No shits are given here. Both of these guys are 0-1 in the organization, getting brought back for whatever reasons. These are just warm bodies. This is the type of fight you could cut from a UFC card. No one would be the worse for wear from it. I think that we both agree, we kind of conclusively decided when that fiasco at 223 went down, the 9 fight cards with 8-9 fights are awesome, the way the UFC used to be. We could trim a lot of the fat here and start by knocking this one right off. No disrespect to either of you gentlemen, if you happen to end up watching this. I just don't know yet. I don't particularly care to know yet, but maybe I'm going to watch you tomorrow, so maybe try and get me to know you with a big-time performance here. I'm taking Perez. He's an enormous favorite. You know, just go with the book on it, but I got nothing to break it down on. I will, however, say our compatriot, Wesley Riddle, did send his picks in, and he is feeling the Perez train as well. So, and I know you, we could even skip you because you've never picked an underdog in your life.
And that's not going to change with this fight. Give me Marcus Perez. Both guys are 0-1 in the UFC. Marcus Perez is a big favorite, about 3-1 last time I checked. The odds makers, when it comes to this fight anyways, know a lot more than I do. So I'm just going to go with the safe pick and go with Marcus Perez. Moving on, we actually have a fight that I find interesting. I don't know if it's going to be a banger. I don't know if it'll be a fight of the night, but I think nobody is talking about this. Rightfully so in a way, because Alberto Mina has been off for so long. Ramazan Emeev's only had one fight in the UFC. But this welterweight fight between Mina and Emeev, I think could be fun. Could be boring, but I think there is that chance to be quite the fun fight. Do you like the Soldier of God here or Goretz?
Wow. Killer breakdown. It could be fun. It could be boring. You know, it could be okay. It could be anything here. What it's not going to be is something that I care about coming into this event. You know, I even actually know who Alberto Mina is off the top of my head, mainly because of that Mike Powell fight in his last run out. Like, how long ago was that? Do you know off the top of your head?
I'm going to say in and around 2 years.
Feels like it was a lengthy stretch of time. But yeah, he's I don't know, he's a decorated grappler, and so that's kind of cool about him. At the same time, though, Ramazan Emeev is not awful. Where's he from? It's one of those Stan countries, isn't it?
He's from Russia.
It's Azerbaijan. It's Azerbaijan. I went and looked it up right now. So that's not a Stan country. That's wrong and bad of me. But the win over Sam Alvey, probably a better win than anything Mina's got on his resume. I mean, Mike Powell is, whenever he beat him 3 years ago, is not the Mike Powell of 5 years ago that was kind of a name worth beating. Same with Yoshihiro Akiyama. He has caught a couple of guys who are well past their sell-by date. Sam Alvey, still sort of in his prime, and a pretty good fighter. Oh, also a sizable middleweight here. So assuming Ramazan Emeev's weight cut went fine, seemed like it did, no trouble on the scale, certainly. I got to favor his ability to, you know, just be a bigger, stronger dude out there against Mina's kind of grappling game, and maybe work him over on the feet, maybe land takedowns of his own. We'll see what happens. But mainly, I just don't care. So, yeah, Alberto Mina probably ends up winning because I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, give me Alberto Mina.
Oh, wow, that's 2 underdogs here because Wes Riddle also has Alberto Mina.
Yeah, so I guess I am a picker of the underdogs, Jed. You have no faith in that.
I do not have any faith in you. You are correct.
No. Alberto Mina's been off since July 7th, 2016, so I was damn close to when I said 2 years. It's been very close to that. When he fights, he seems to be good. He's 3-0 in the UFC, which is kind of crazy because he's been around for, you know, almost 4 years, yet he's only fought 3 times. He's undefeated. He's clearly a talented fighter, but the layoff is always concerning. But hey, he's fought off layoffs before, lengthy layoffs, and he has just won. And so I don't know how much you really put into that. On the other hand, Ramazan Emeev seems to be a pretty good fighter. I mean, a win over Sam Alvey doesn't mean a whole lot. It means something, though.
Sam Alvey's like a ranked middleweight, homie.
Not quite, but almost.
He was at one point. I don't know. He might have lost that designation, but he was.
Yeah. Emeeve's, yeah, he seems talented. I think Emeeve might have the grappling advantage. It's tough. It's really tough to say. I think both guys. I look at them as strikers, but they both have some grappling chops as well. So it'll be interesting to see where this fight plays out. I think it'll mostly be on the feet, and I think Mina probably has slightly more precise striking, landed per minute, quite a bit higher in favor of the other soldier of God, Alberto Mina, not Yoel Romero. And I think he hits a little bit harder. So I'm going to go Alberto Mina here by decision, but I wouldn't be shocked to see a TKO finish here as well. Next up, we move back up to the middleweight division. We got Brazilian Thales Leites taking on Jack the Joker Hermansson. Kind of an interesting fight here. Hermansson has done decent things in the octagon in a short period of time. Thales Leites, he was nearly top 10 a couple years ago, but he seems to be sort of on the way down. Both guys are coming off losses. Who do you like in this one, Hermansson or Leites?
Well, I will tell you, I am not interested in this fight mainly because it's 39-year-old Thales Leites or whatever. So why should I care all that much? But I do know a lot more about these fighters just off the top of my head. I can recall most of their fights, been around for a minute. And this one seems pretty straightforward to me. Thales Leites, great for him to kind of have a career resurgence. He was out of the UFC, came back for a while, like you said, got a number next to his name, put together some wins. Arguably beat Michael Bisping when Bisping started that run that put him to the title. A competitive guy at the top of the division after everybody had written him off. Fair play to him. He's old, a little bit shot now. I won't say all the way shot, but a little bit slower, a little bit down on his luck. And his style is not going to play here all that well. Hermansson's a good defender of takedowns. And while Leites has learned to be kind of a power puncher on the feet, he just throws so little volume. Hermansson's likely going to just piece him up with combos and, just outland him in way to a unanimous decision, maybe a late stoppage, but I'm going to err on the side of decision. Give me Hermansson. And our boy Wesley Riddle agrees. He also has Jack the Joker Hermansson.
Yeah, I got the Joker here as well. Give me Jack Hermansson. Pretty much for the same reasons you do. I'm not. Well, I shouldn't say I'm not super confident, but I think Thales Leites is on his way down. I think the better days of Thales Leites are behind him, which is kind of unfortunate because he was a pretty good fighter. Almost beating Michael Bisping a few years back. That was pretty impressive. That was also a main event. But since then, he's been win or loss, win, loss, win, loss. So I guess he's technically due for a win here, but his wins have also come over, again, Sam Alvey and Chris Camozzi. And I just don't think those are the most impressive wins. On the other hand, he's lost to guys like Brad Tavares, Christoph Jotko, Gegard Mousasi, Michael Bisping. And so, he's definitely lost to talented guys, but I think Jack Hermansson is right around the Brad Tavares, Christoph Jotko area. And so if he's losing to those guys, I don't think he'll get the job done here. Hermansson is just too good on the feet. I think for Leites, who isn't the best striker, he can put together some strikes, but not the best. Grappling obviously would go advantage Leites, but he has to get it there, and he struggled to do that in recent fights. So I got to go with the Swede here. Give me Jack Hermansson via unanimous decision. We move on to the final fight pass early prelim, the feature fight, if you will. We got welterweights Warley Alves taking on Sultan Iliev. Do you like the Russian here or the Brazilian?
Why am I always leading off? Why can't you lead off so I can steal from your picks, huh? Fine. I see how it is. Warley Alves is a big favorite. There is a reason here. Look, Sultan Iliev is not a bad fighter, but he's just going to get outworked. Like, that's the long and short of it here. On the feet, he's going to get outworked, probably going to get outworked in the grappling game. Warley Alves been around for a minute. Losses to Barberena and Usman are – the Usman loss, no shame. Barberena, I don't put a ton of stock in, but I know other people respect him. I feel like he's a durable, tough out, but not a guy you should actually lose to if you're a good fighter. But he does have that win over Colby Covington. So, Warley Alves being a hero among heroes also got the home court. I haven't really factored that into my picks so far tonight, but I think I'm going to start. Brazilian cards, sometimes they're pretty hit or miss. Sometimes, the Brazilian cards, all the Brazilians win, all the hometown people win. Sometimes none of them win. I feel like this might be a big night for Brazilians. So give me Warley Alves. He's the favorite. Let's rock and roll that. And our boy, Wes Riddle, disagrees. You get to be the arbiter of dissent. He has Sultan Aliyev.
Jed Meshew, I will agree with you on this one. You are the smarter person for this pick. I don't know about the rest of the card, but for now, you are a bit more intelligent, I think, than Westwell, who of course isn't here. So that just sort of drops him off immediately. I like Warliov in this fight. I like him quite a bit. I think he'll probably stop Sultan Aliyev. Aliyev just hasn't fought for quite a while. He was supposed to fight at UFC on Fox 26 in Winnipeg back in December. He was injured and did not fight. He hasn't fought since December 2016. I know I said it doesn't matter that Alberto Mina hasn't fought since July of 2016. And so I don't really know how much to put into these long layoffs, but they affect certain fighters differently. So it's just something worth mentioning, of course. But on the other end, I mean, Warley Alves is a really talented grappler. He's very good on the ground, and he puts his submissions together well. Some people might remember or forget that he has a submission over Colby Covington, who's about to challenge for the interim welterweight title next month. And so, obviously, that was a different Covington, and hey, a different Alves for what it's worth. But so I think because Alves hasn't had the most success in the past year or so, he has he's 1-2 since the Covington fight, losing to Brian Barberena, which was a bit of a shock. And then Kamaru Usman, no surprise, he got back into the winning column in October of last year, but that was against a newcomer decision, not the most impressive. I think he'll get back to his finish ways here. On the feet, Aliev's probably a little bit better. I just don't know if he has the power to put Alves away. I think Alves does get this to the ground, though, and tap out Sultan Aliev. Let's go in the second round. We move to the FX prelims. We got 4 fights kicking off at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We start again in the welterweight division. It's kind of crazy. 5 fights in, we've had only middleweight and welterweight fights, but nonetheless, here we go. This is a very fun one. Iluzu Zaleski dos Santos taking on Sean Strickland. 18-5, but Capoeira has been on quite the roll, and Tarzan, of course, has only lost 2. Both guys are very good, and it'll be interesting to see where the winner goes from here. I think very close to the top 50, not quite because welterweight's good, but right up there anyways. Do you like Zaleski dos Santos, the slight favorite here, or Strickland?
I'm going to take my first underdog of the night. I am going to take the Team Quest product, Sean, whatever his fight nickname is, Strickland. Excuse me. I mean, his only loss in the last since coming to the UFC, Santiago Ponzinibbio and Kamaru Usman. Like, those are 2 guys who are knocking on the door of title shots, 2 of the elite in the welterweight division. And frankly, I just don't see Zaleski dos Santos as that guy. I think he's a solid fighter. Max Griffin impressed against Mike Perry, obviously. Lyman Good, been around the Bellator scene for a while. Even Keita Nakamura, solid veteran. I don't know. I think he's not a bad fighter, but he has not impressed me in the same way that Sean Strickland has. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with my gut here. I'm gonna take the underdog. I think Strickland can keep this standing, and on the feet, he's got a little bit more range. He's a little taller guy, and I think he can probably outwork Zaleski dos Santos. So a good fight, competitive fight. One of the few undercard fights that no bullshit. I actually think this is really good matchmaking I'm interested in, whereas a lot of this is chafe that you could get the fuck out of my face if you wanted to. This is a good fight. I'm interested to see it. I'm taking Strickland, and I am not alone. Wes Riddle is also on that underdog train. So are you going to be the voice of dissent? Are you going to take the favorite? What's going to happen here?
Well, I make it interesting nonetheless because I pick the underdog, Sean Strickland. Well, I'm going with another underdog, and that's just not me. I go with the favorite, Zaleski dos Santos. Well, we have a bit of dissension, so it's going to be interesting. I will go back to my favorite ways, though, and that is by picking the favorite. Give me Iluzu Zaleski dos Santos in this one to defeat Sean Strickland. I think he'll get it done by decision. I think if you're going to bet this fight, don't bet a winner because it's a very close one, but bet the over. Seems likely that it will go the distance, at the very least over 2.5 rounds, which I assume the over is set at. Here, both guys are very good strikers. I think this will be mostly a stand-up war. Maybe not a war, but I think it'll be. Both guys are very technical. Both guys are very fun though, so I think this fight will definitely be action-packed. I think Zaleski dos Santos is just a little quicker on the feet. I think he hits a little harder. I know Strickland does have the reach advantage. He's a bit longer, but Zaleski dos Santos, from what I've seen, is pretty good at getting inside the distance. I think he's getting better. I'm not saying Strickland isn't, but just from what I've seen of Zaleski dos Santos as of late, I keep picking against him. He keeps proving me wrong and looking or making me look like a bit of a fool. And so I'm on the Zaleski dos Santos train for now until he loses, I suppose. But he's on a big winning streak. I know Strickland only has lost to the best of the best, Santiago Ponzinibbio and Kamaru Usman, two of the top 10 welterweights in the UFC. But something about Zaleski dos Santos, I think he'll be knocking on the top 15 very, very soon, perhaps after this fight. So give me Iluzu Zaleski dos Santos via competitive unanimous decision. We move down to the lightweight division, going under 170 pounds for the first time tonight. Davi Ramos taking on Nick Hein, who has not fought since 2 years. So a lot of fighters on this card coming off long layoffs.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's wild.
Do you like the Tasmanian Devil here or Sergeant?
Me and Luke Thomas talked about this earlier today. Davi Ramos has just a ton of ability, and he's been real hit or miss, and so it's tough to predict his fights. Tough to predict what kind of guy you're going to see in the cage come fight night. Personally, I just don't think a ton of Nick Hein. I mean, I know he's hung around for a while, got some okay wins, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna side with Davi Ramos just kind of on the pedigree, the potential, the ceiling, but I will not be surprised at all if he comes out and looks flat, and Nick Hein just kind of outworks him over the course of 15 minutes. So give me Davi Ramos, and our boy Wes Riddle is a underdog picking machine. Through 6 fights so far, he has picked 4 underdogs because he has taken Nick Hein.
Wow, very interesting. Again, Jed, you are the genius when it comes. I mean, you're not a genius, but if I have to pick one between you and Wes, I'll go with you. Give me Davi Ramos the favorite here. I think he's going to do good work against Nick Hein on the feet. Again, it's definitely worth mentioning the German Nick Hein is coming off a long layoff, as I said off the top. Always something to keep in mind. Whether or not it'll affect him, we don't know until this fight goes down tomorrow night. But he is also a guy who has been very inactive. He's come off long layoffs before. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. So, in his last fight, he was coming off a year-long layoff, and he looked all right. I know this is a bit longer than a year, but hey, say la vie, we will see what happens. But I think Nick Hein he's active, sort of, but not really. Like, I feel like he's a very, just kind of like I don't know. Is it rude to say he's like a cardio kickboxer? He's a good striker. He's a good fighter.
Not a compliment.
No, it's really not. He's not super active, but he's active enough to outpoint some, lower fighters, I guess. But on the ground, we haven't seen too much of Nick Hein on the ground. He's mostly a striker, even though he doesn't have much power either. I know it seems like I'm shitting all over Nick Hein, but hey, he has enough tools in the tool bag to beat, some fighters anyways. I don't know if Davi Ramos will be one of those though. This guy is really talented on the ground. He has many, many credentials, and we haven't seen the best Davi Ramos, I don't think. I'm kind of hoping we see more. We see better from Davi Ramos. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just never will. Maybe losing to Sergio Rice and beating Chris Grootmacher is sort of his ceiling. I hope it's not, but you never know. Chris Grootmacher, some could argue, is a guy he should have probably tapped out sooner than the 3rd round, but
I'd like to cut in here for a moment.
Yeah.
This is how we take too fucking long. We don't need to keep talking about Davi Ramos, Nick Hein. Who gives a fuck? The people at home sure don't. I sure don't. Let's be honest, you don't either. Let's get a move on, Nikolai.
That is a fair point. So Davi Ramos,
especially because the next fight up is the only undercard fight I'm actually excited about.
Really? All right.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Davi Ramos. I'll say decision, maybe a late submission. Next up, we got Jed's favorite fight of the prelims, heavyweights. Alexei Oleinik, the boa constrictor himself, taking on Baby Junior Albini. Who is the pick in this most anticipated heavyweight brawl?
All right, first I need you to answer. Was he Baby before the diaper short incident, or is he just leaned into that one? I feel like he was Baby before that, but I can't recall if he was or if now I just think of him as a baby because of the diapers.
It happened in both of his UFC fights, did it not?
I know. I know that it happened with Arlovsky. I don't really recall.
He definitely was wearing shorts that looked like a diaper against Tim Johnson when he knocked him out.
It's just he definitely was. You're right. It's wild. But I didn't know if that he was Baby beforehand, and it just is hilarious that this worked out that way, or if my mind is playing tricks on me. Anyway, the point is, it is categorically fucking sane that Alexei Oleinik is the underdog here. Wildly shocking to me that, look, Alexei Oleinik is not a great fighter. He's a good fighter, and Junior Albini is a fighter. Like, we don't have any idea if he's a good fighter at all, really. The entirety of this line seems built around the fact that Tim Johnson couldn't take Junior Albini down and got knocked out real quick. But Tim Johnson's actually not a super good wrestler as far as effectiveness. I know he has a pedigree. He's not. Whereas Alexei Oleinik is actually a pretty effective wrestler. And he didn't even have to wrestle. He can pull Baby Albini into mount and Ezekiel choke him from bottom mount. This shit's going to be over. It's going to be awesome. I am super excited about this. Give me Alexei Oleinik being real old manny and weird with some type of boa constriction here. He is going to end up getting a performance bonus from me and be my underdog pick of the evening, just not burying the lead at all, letting you know Oleinik all day.
There you go.
And Wes Riddle is also on Alexei Oleinik, which makes 5 underdogs out of 7 for him.
That's crazy. If he wins picks, I will be congratulating him again. Yeah. Give me Alexei Oleinik here as well. We're 3-0 for the boa constrictor. I was also very surprised when I saw him at about plus 130. I think is what I first saw him at. I don't know if that's changed or not, but I think this is a very similar conversation, or at least your side of it anyways, is when Albini fought Arlovsky, where most people were on Albini, yet you picked Arlovsky, and it was the same idea. We don't know if Albini is good, and Andre Arlovsky, maybe he can't take a shot, maybe he's shot, but he's still Andre Arlovsky. He still has some skill, so it's very reminiscent of that, but I've learned my lesson, because I did pick Albini to knock out Arlovsky. That didn't happen, so here I am going to go with Alexei Oleinik. I think this guy is going to maul Junior Albini on the ground for what it's worth. The weight advantage is going to be interesting. Junior Albini is a very heavy guy. Oleinik, he is a heavyweight, but it's about 30 pounds different. So, but ultimately Albini's a boxer. He's a striker, and so I don't know how much that'll affect him. If this was roles reversed, if Albini was a grappler and Oleinik was a striker, maybe it's a little different. But I think Oleinik will be able to still get the takedowns, get on top in some weird way, and probably choke out Baby Junior Albini. Also in the second round, he's called the boa constrictor for a reason. He's very good on the ground. And I don't think his striking is terrible. Like, it's not great. It's not technical, but he hits hard. He puts punches together, and that's really all that counts. If this is a striking matchup, Albini wins, but it's not. This is MMA, so I think the Russian, Alexei Oleinik, will get the job done here. Let's move on to the final FX prelim. To the middleweight division we go. Cesar Mutanche Ferreira taking on Carl Baby K. Robertson. Do you like the slight favorite here in Robertson, who, of course, is from Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series last summer, or does Ferreira get the job done?
I don't know, man. Robertson's been beating ass since he got in the UFC, which is cool.
He's only had one fight, but yeah.
Well, counting the Dana White thing. Okay. He beat the ever-loving shit out of whatever that dude's name. He just elbowed his face off. Yeah, he elbowed his face off in like 4 seconds. Like, it was awesome. And then he ran through. No, I'm not talking about Darren Stewart.
You're talking about Ryan Spann on Contender Series.
Sure, yeah. I was talking about the guy in Contender Series who he literally elbowed out of this planet in like 10 seconds. It was something super quick. Yeah, I mean, I'm taking Robertson all day. Mutanch is a guy, like he's got a win over Hermanson. We previously talked that Hermanson's pretty decent. But he also barely beat Nate Marquardt, who's trash. So Cesar Ferreira is just weird. It's like he's beat Thiago Santos and Sergio Moraes and lost to Sam Alvey and George Masvidal. And like he's just kind of all over the place. I don't really know. And Carl Robertson is pretty consistent and seems to be really good at fisticuffs. So if he's the favorite, you said?
Yeah,
That makes me feel even better about it. I'm taking Robertson. Our boy Wes Riddle also is on the Robertson train. So is it 3 for 3? Are we all riding high, or are you on Mutanch?
Nope, I'm going with Carl Robertson here as well. Mostly for the same reasons. It's hard to trust Cesar Ferreira. He's up and down all the time. He's coming off that win over Nate Marquardt. A split decision wasn't all that impressive. Before that, he lost to Las Theodora. Could have gone his way. He tapped out Jack Hermanson, beat Anthony Smith, but nothing I see on his record in the past couple of years impresses me all that much. On the other end, Carl Robertson seems to be quite the talent. We won't really know what this guy's made of until he fights a few more times, but hey, choking out Darren Stewart in the first round in his debut, not a terrible start to his UFC run. And so as far as the matchup goes, I think he's probably the better striker. Fahia might be a better wrestler or might be better at ground control, but Robertson's not half bad on the ground either. So I think he has more ways to win. So give me the American, give me Carl Robertson. Let's go with a TKO in round number 2. With that, we move on to the pay-per-view main card. 5 fights kicking off at the wonderful time of 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We kick things off with a fight that it seems like this could have happened and probably should have happened years ago. I remember when this was offered as an intermiddleweight title fight about 3 or 4 years ago. I think 3. I think that was when Weidman pulled out of the fight on the Rousey-Zingano card when Belfort was supposed to challenge Weidman for the title, and yada, yada, yada. Nonetheless, it hasn't happened until now. Middleweight legends, Vitor Belfort, Lyoto Machida, the Phenom versus the Dragon, Brazil versus Brazil in Brazil. I wish it couldn't get any better than this, but both guys are so old and so done, it probably can. Who's to pick, Vitor Belfort or Lyoto Machida?
I'm taking the underdog, Vitor Belfort. Just not to get right out of it, our buddy Wes Riddle is taking Lyoto Machida, but I'm on the underdog here for one very specific reason. Both of these guys are old. Both of these guys are shot. But I do personally think that Vitor is a little bit less shot, and I made this comparison to Luke earlier today. The way their careers have gone are pretty different. The way that they've kind of moved into old age. And Vitor used to have like 10 minutes of good fighting in him. As he's gotten older, that good fighting is just condensed down. He just has less of it. He's not a bad fighter. He's just only a good fighter for 3 minutes instead of 10. Lyoto Machida, his game is not built to age super gracefully. I know people always talked about how he didn't take shots and, that would preserve him for the long term. But the reality is, kind of like Roy Jones Jr. in boxing, his style required a lot of timing, a lot of precision and speed. Those things that go pretty quickly once you start getting old, you don't have the ability to do that as fast as you want. So when you think, okay, I'm just out of range, as soon as I see him move in, I step back. When you get older, you're a little less quick to do that, and you can't step back, and then you get jawed. I think Lyoto Machida's chin is not as good as it used to be, and frankly, I'm just banking on this being like Shogun Machida too. And Belfort's going to come out, and for 3 minutes, he's going to throw heavy, and I won't be shocked if Machida manages to just stay away and, kind of let Belfort tire himself out and then take over down the stretch, but personally, like I said, I think this is Shogun Machida too. I think Belfort comes forward, lands the big shot, puts Machida away. And my last point on this, Belfort's a southpaw. Machida has historically struggled with southpaws. So just another little wrinkle there. Give me the underdog, Vitor Belfort. Nick, decide who's right, me or Wes.
Well, main card fights are what ultimately matter, and this time I am going in the direction of Wesley Riddle. Give me Lyoto the Dragon Machida here to defeat Vitor the Phenom, the Old Lion, the Young Dinosaur, whatever they call him, Belfort. Here I like Machida because I actually think he's less shot than Vitor. I think you can make the argument either way. Maybe there's not a right answer. Maybe they're equally shot. We don't really know. We probably never will. You can't measure that sort of stuff. But I think, as crazy as it might sound, Machida's taken a bit less damage. I don't know. It's kind of tough to say. Both guys have been knocked out multiple times lately in the past couple of years. Of course, Machida's been off for a little while before, I guess, his last two fights. Um, yeah, it's a coin toss fight, really. I think Machida, his style, can stay away from any of Vitor Belfort's offense, or most of any, anyways. He might have that one surge at the very beginning where he looks like he's the phenom again, looks like 25-year-old Vitor Belfort. But the problem is it only will last a minute or two, and then from there it's sort of Machida's fight to lose. As long as Machida, who of course with his karate style is decent at defense still, even though he did get knocked out by Derek Brunson 2 fights ago, as long as he stays away from that early push, I think he's good. He needs to avoid it. It's not impossible, but it's also possible that he might not, and Belfort could catch him. So both guys are done. Both guys probably shouldn't be fighting. But I guess if they want to, then go for it, I suppose. Give me Lyoto Machida. I like him by decision in a rather uneventful fight. Next up, we move to a fight that should be a lot more eventful, in my opinion. Anyways, we go to the bantamweight division. John the Hands of Stone Linacre taking on Brian Boom Kelleher. Something very interesting about John Lineker's recent fights is that I just noticed that he went from fighting TJ Dillashaw, who at the time was coming off a title loss, or actually the Rafael Sansa rematch victory, but he went from fighting TJ Dillashaw, which he lost to Marlon Chito Vera. Now he's fighting Brian Kelleher, who lost to Chito Vera. So kind of odd matchmaking, but I know Brian Kelleher did call for it, and he's been on a bit of winning streak as of late, coming
Just
off
knocked
that.
out the former champion.
Yeah.
Or not knocked out, but beat.
Decisions. Yeah. Although, what does that mean in 2018? Not really anything. Nonetheless, he got the fight. Good for him. John Lineker, Brian Kelleher. Who do you like here?
Well, give me John Lineker. I think it's going to be a really fun scrap. I think Kelleher's a pretty good fighter. The one question I have here is Lineker didn't look good at the end of that Vera fight. And I think that there's a real possibility that he is kind of plateaued as a fighter, that he is all he's ever going to be, whereas Brian Kelleher does appear to be improving time in and time out. So, maybe we see that maybe Kelleher just makes big improvements and Lineker is kind of stuck where he is in the stasis, and that's enough for Kelleher to overcome him. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Lineker's still just a little too good. If Kelleher was a better top control artist, I might be more inclined to pick him. He's a decent wrestler. I think he's going to be able to get Lineker down. I just don't think he's going to be able to keep him down. As soon as they stand up, Lineker is going to roast the body, throw heavy shots, and Kelleher is just kind of going to get outgunned a little bit all over the place. So give me Lineker by decision. And our boy Wes Riddle agrees. He has Lineker as well.
Yeah, give me John Lineker. I think he'll get back to his violent ways, as bad as that could sound. He hasn't been sort of the John Lineker we all love and know. I know his last fight was a decision over Marlon Chito Vera. Then he, of course, lost to Dillashaw. Split decision win over John Dodson that, of course, we both believe. It's been said many times on the show that Dodson won that fight. It was a fun one, though. But last time he really, looked like John Lineker. Or no, that's not a great way to say it, but last time he knocked someone out, quite frankly, was against Michael McDonald back in July 2016. So I think he will return to that. Step down in competition for my money. But Brian Kelleher, again, has been on a bit of a winning streak, so I can't complain too much. I think he can make it a fun fight. He's getting better. He should be able to put up a fight, but I just think John Lineker is going to outstrike him and do it in fun fashion. I think he'll, just sort of do what John Lineker does. Whether he catches him, it's a bit tougher to say. Whether he puts Kelleher away, I'll say he does. I'll say he knocks him out, or I guess a TKO in round number 2. Kelleher, of course, mostly known as a grappler. If he gets it down to the ground, maybe he can do some good work there. Maybe he can look for a submission. But something I actually find interesting, I would have thought Kelleher had a reach advantage here, but Linacre actually has a 1-inch reach advantage. The height, though, Kelleher is a bit taller. Yeah, I like Linacre to outpoint him and knock him out in round number 2. With that, we move on to the women's strawweight, kind of flyweight division. Mackenzie Duran, who, of course, weighed in 7 pounds overweight at 123 pounds just the day before her 116-pound fight against Amanda Bobby Cooper, although I guess she dropped Bobby. So let's just go Amanda Cooper, ABC. Maybe a tougher pick now that Duran weighed in 7 pounds overweight. Maybe that makes it easier because it's basically a flyweight fighting a strawweight. You tell me, do you like Mackenzie Duran, the grappling ace here, who apparently doesn't take her career as serious as she probably should as a young rising prospect with, let's be honest, some potential? Or do you think Amanda Cooper ruins all those plans altogether?
Amanda Cooper is not built to ruin plans of Mackenzie Duran. This was really good matchmaking in that Cooper is tough enough to provide Mackenzie Duran a workout. And if Mackenzie Duran is completely garbage and not taking this fight seriously, then Cooper could maybe sneak one by her. But there's a wide gulf between what the two of these women can do grappling, and eventually, and especially considering the weight advantage, Duran's going to be able to force the fight to the floor. And if Cynthia Calvillo can get to a back and sink in a rear naked choke, Mackenzie Duran sure as shit can. So yeah, give me a Mackenzie Duran all day. My one point on this, I don't think Mackenzie Duran needs to do shit, frankly. I know that there's a lot in the community now being like, this seems like she's not taking her career seriously. I agree. Totally seems like she doesn't give a shit. And I am for it. Like, this fighting isn't for everybody. She is, by virtue of her already ample skill set and her marketability, she is able to get paid and not have to work all that hard and still pick up wins. And if you can do that and you don't really care about chasing a title or a legacy, rock on, girl. Like, live your best life. Go party at the clubs and then just show up on Saturday and beat ass. I'm fine with that. But it would be a lot cooler if you just
sounds a lot like John Jones. So I guess leave out the doing illegal things, and I guess you're okay.
I mean, leave out getting caught. That was John Jones's problem. You can do illegal shit. It's not that hard to not get caught doing it. But it doesn't seem like Duran's doing any of that. She keeps thinking she's going to fight at 115, and just don't. Like, know that you are going to not take this seriously. Just be a flyweight, and that's totally cool. That division's dog shit. You could still tap out everyone. Hand to your chest right now. If somehow the UFC got Nico Montano to fight Mackenzie Duran tomorrow, who are you taking? Are you confident in Nico Montano there?
No.
Exactly. Like, 125 is a dog shit division too. So just go live in that.
Way better chance of winning the flyweight title than the strawweight. I don't think she'll win either because Valentina Shevchenko's a thing. But
yeah, no, yeah, like she is a top 5 fighter as the rankings currently sit at strawweight if she were to fight those people. And she has huge holes and kind of sucks at fighting, but she does one thing really well, and that division's garbage. So keep on, girl. Just don't sign up to fight at 115. Fight at 125.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean,
did I say Wes Riddle also picked Mackenzie Duran?
No, you didn't, but now you did, so we're good. Yeah, I'll complete the hat trick and go Mackenzie Duran. But as you said, I don't have much to add. I mean, Amanda Bobby Cooper has lost by submission multiple times in her UFC career, which really hasn't lasted all that long. I think she's had 3 fights, maybe 4. Yeah, she had 4 fights in the UFC, including her debut, the Ultimate Fighter finale, which she lost to Tatiana Suarez. Both her losses, first round submission. If Cynthia Calvillo can tap her out, if Tatiana Suarez can tap her out, probably Mackenzie Duran can as well. Yeah, that's kind of my analysis for this one. I don't think her weighing in 7 pounds over will affect her negatively. It might just affect her positively because it's not like she drained herself because she didn't cut 7 pounds. If she had weighed in at like 118 and looked awful, maybe that's a different story, but she didn't really look awful. She just looked like a fighter who stopped cutting for whatever reason. We haven't really gone that side of the story yet. So yeah, I think it'll be good in that regard. I think she'll be the stronger fighter, definitely the bigger fighter. And so, yeah, give me Mackenzie Duran to win her second UFC fight. Give me a first-round submission over Amanda Cooper. We move on to the co-main event, what I will call the people's main event. Ronaldo Jacare Souza taking on Kelvin Gastelum in a very important, very pivotal, very fun middleweight matchup number 2 versus number 5, 185 pounds. Do you like the Brazilian or does the American come in and steal the show?
I'm taking Jacare Souza. At first, I was kind of with everyone in this is a very tough fight to predict. But over the course of today, I have very quickly changed my opinion. So the contours of the fight are obvious. If Kelvin Gastelum can get to the chin of Jacare, he can knock him out. Can Jacare take Kelvin Gastelum down? Very, very simple stuff. I think people are overrating how shot Jacare is. And I hand up, before the fight with Derek Brunson, I picked Brunson. I said Jacare is done. He's seen the end of his rope, and that's just it. Went back and watched some things, considered some things, and I think that I was premature in saying that because I think we are all just underrating how good Robert Whittaker is. I think that's it, pure and simple. Jacare Souza is not Yoel Romero, but we've seen that Yoel Romero as an elite athlete is still really fucking good at 41 or maybe 50. He's Cuban. Who knows how old he actually is. Jacare Souza, same thing, is an elite athlete. Like, he can continue to be good. His chin has always been a little suspect. You know, he's been knocked out several times before. But I think it's just that Robert Whittaker is that good, and I don't think Kelvin Gastelum is as good. More to the point, Kelvin Gastelum is actually a welterweight, and Kelvin Gastelum is not a super good defensive wrestler. I think this looks a lot like the Weidman Gastelum fight, only without Gastelum getting good shots in early. I think Jacare is just kind of going to come forward, get his hands around him, and as soon as he does, the fight's over. Gastelum can't hang with this dude on the ground. Weidman insta-tapped him. Jacare is going to insta-tap him. Give me Jacare by first round submission. Wes Riddle disagrees. He once again has Kelvin Gastelum, the underdog. Picking just so many underdogs. So who's right, who's wrong?
Well, in the fight that matters almost the most, because UFC championships are still
Title
a thing,
eliminator.
give me Ronaldo Jacare Souza to defeat Kelvin Gastelum. A very close fight, but I've always been on Souza as you know, from the get-go. As soon as this fight was announced, I was thinking, I'm not going to make the mistake I made in January. In January, I picked Derek Brunson to knock out Jacare Souza. That was for one reason only. Well, two, because Brunson hits really hard and has a lot of knockout wins lately, and because I thought Souza was done. I thought after losing to Robert Whittaker in such vicious fashion, I thought his better days were behind him. I thought he was out the door. I thought he was practically done. Not the same fighter he was before that loss, but he proved me wrong. He knocked out Derek Brunson in round number 1 with a head kick and strikes. Looked fantastic. And I am once again back on the Jacare Souza train. I've been on the Kelvin Gastelum train for a long time, but when he's fighting top 5 elite middleweights that are bigger than him, that have a reach advantage, have a height advantage, have a strength advantage, and particularly have a grappling advantage. Jacare Souza is one of the best jiu-jitsu artists in the UFC, in MMA. If Chris Weidman was able to constantly take Kelvin Gastelum down and choke him out, I gotta think Ronaldo Jacare Souza can do that as well. So give me Jacare Souza via submission in round number 2. And yeah, that's my pick. I think he'll probably fight the winner of Whittaker Romero. Does that sound right? You're muted, but I assume you just said, yeah, you're right, Nick, because you always are. So with that,
not the last part, but yeah, definitely this is the title.
With that, let's move on.
If Romero wins, then they're probably going to do that rematch immediately, the 3 match, and so then the winner of this will have to sit on the shelf. But yeah, most likely just going to get the shot against Whittaker.
Which kind of sucks, just because if Souza does win like we are both predicting, then it's going to be a rematch either way. I actually would be more intrigued by the Romero-Souza rematch, but just because that's a bit farther away. But hey, nonetheless.
I mean, I'm happy to watch either.
Yeah, sure. And I guess if Gaston wins, then that'd be very intriguing. Gaston versus Romero would be a lot of fun. Gaston Whitaker would be so much fun. But nonetheless, we'll wait and see. No point speculating who we need to see who wins first. With that, let's move on to the UFC 224 main event. The UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship is on the line when the champ herself, the Lioness Amanda Nunes, defends the title against Raquel Rocky Pennington, who has not fought since November of 2016. Another fighter in the main event coming off a long layoff. This is pretty incredible that she was able to still secure the title shot despite not having fought since November 2016 when she defeated and retired Miesha Tate.
There's no one else to fight.
Although
nobody else.
No, I know. Although Nunes did really retire Miesha Tate, Pennington was really just the icing on the cupcake.
Nice. Good work.
Yes. Nunes Pennington, who takes home the
Top
UFC
shelf
Women's
journalism
Bantamweight
right
title.
there from you, Nikolai. Top shelf journalism with that cupcake comment. Amanda Nunes is going to win this fight. I do think it's a really good, very competitive fight. So the thing for me here is the reason I'm picking Nunes is there's a wide gulf in athleticism. Ronda Rousey, when she came through the UFC, when she was making her name, the reality of the situation is she had skills, obviously, but she was so much of a better athlete than every woman competing in the sport that it was like an adult playing against children, really. Like, it really was. Think of all the women she fought on that, like, blitz through the title. The first good athlete, I mean, look, Sarah McMahon and Kat Zingano are good athletes, but not to the extent that Ronda was. You know, they come from a wrestling background, and the reality is women's wrestling in the Olympics is less of a kind of defined sport than judo is. They're just less players. So Ronda's bronze medal in judo means more than Sarah McMahon's silver medal in wrestling. But, you know, they just weren't the athletes to compete with Ronda. And the first, like, really good athlete, Holly Holm, is a good athlete, and Ronda got her ass kicked. And the next really good athlete, Amanda Nunes, who is probably the best athlete in the division, beat the ever-loving shit out of her. And the difference here is that Rocky Pennington just isn't a great athlete. She's a fine athlete, but the gulf there in power and speed and things like that is enormous. So that's why I'm favoring Nunes. But I don't think this is a walk in the park. And for a couple of reasons. One, I'm pretty high on Rocky Pennington just as far as being a really well-rounded fighter who kind of came up through fire, learned the hard way on the job. But more so, these two women trained against each other. You know, they were training partners for a good stretch of time. They've been in the cage against each other plenty of times. And I think that plays to Rocky Pennington's advantage here. Amanda Nunes is not a great adjuster in the middle of fights. She kind of is linear. She sticks on the same path that she is going to be on the whole time. She's going to keep doing the same thing. And if you get her off that path, then she's kind of, you know, inclined to start doing things that disadvantage her going forward. So if she hurts somebody, she might kind of blow her wad trying to finish them. Whereas Rocky Pennington, like, the biggest question when facing Amanda Nunes is how are you going to deal with her power, her athleticism, her physicality? Because it's difficult to simulate that. Not a lot of women out there have that in the sport. And so you can get in against her, and the first time you get punched in the face, you're like, wow, holy shit, she hits really hard. Pennington won't have that. She's been hit or she's been hit really hard in the face. She knows if she can take that power or not, and she knows how to craft a game plan around what is being brought by Nunes in this case. So I do think she's going to be able to maybe slow this fight down, get in the clinch, wear her out some. She's a pretty good clinch fighter. Jab effectively, stay at range, and try and win rounds, but is gonna, at the end of the day, she's gonna be losing exchanges and everything just because she doesn't have the same pop on her punches. So I'm taking Nunes, but I think it's gonna be a back and forth fight. I think it's a decision. I also think the odds are a little off, and you might not be badly served to throw a little scratch on Pennington despite the long layoff. But that's it. I'm taking Nunes. Wes Riddle agrees. Is it unanimous, sir?
It is unanimous. Give me Amanda Nunes to successfully defend the UFC Women's Bantamweight title for the third time in a row. Of course, she defeated Ronda Rousey. She defeated, although, you know, you can beg to differ, she defeated Valentina Shevchenko, and now she will have defeated Rocky.
Only in the scorecards, not in actuality.
Yes.
Shevchenko, 135 champion.
Raquel Pennington as well. Here, this is a battle of mostly strikers, although I think Nunes Some people forget about Amanda Nunes, her ground game. She's actually pretty talented in the ground, and I think that's sort of the probably not the sort of the where I make this decision to pick Nunes. It's not like the one thing that gets her ahead of Rocky Pennington here, but it definitely helps. I think her athleticism also does. Raquel Pennington isn't the most athletic fighter. Nunes is very athletic. Um, you know, I think her cardio might be better. But also, as I said, her ground game is just a little better. Pennington doesn't have too many chokes, although I do look back and remember that Ashley Evan Smith Bulldog choke back at the end of 2014. That was vicious. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about now that I think about it. Maybe Pennington is just as good a grappler. Probably not. I think Nunes is a bit more elite on the ground. And on the feet, I think she is as well. She puts her strikes together better. She's a little more active, although Pennington does throw quite a bit herself. I think this is going to be competitive. I think Pennington has a shot here. I'm not going to say she has a great chance. She, split decision. This is a real pick and fight, coin toss fight. But I think Pennington has a better chance than the odds makers and most fans are giving her credit for. She's a good fighter. People forget that, and unfortunately for her, she's fighting a striker. She's a striker for the most part. I just don't know where Pennington's really better than Nunes. I think on the feet, Nunes is better and will just be able to outpoint Pennington. And then on the ground, I think Nunes is a bit better as well. Nunes also hits harder. Pennington doesn't, she has some power, not the most. I think Nunes obviously has tons and tons of power, and I think that will, work to her advantage as well. Ultimately, I think she will stop Raquel Pennington. I don't think it'll be early in the fight. I think maybe a fourth round TKO. If not, I think probably a decision. But I don't see this one ending early. I think this will be a pretty fun fight. I would consider picking for fight of the night. I probably won't, but it's not a terrible choice for fight of the night. Just because it could go on for up to 25 minutes. And I think it'll be a bit more back and forth than people think. So I'm looking forward to it more than some people, anyways. But ultimately, I do like the line this year. I like Amanda Nunes to retain the UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship via fourth round TKO, most likely ground and pound. So that's it. UFC 224 in the books. With that, let's move on to our bonuses. I almost forgot what we do next. It's been so long. It's been 3 weeks. But bonuses and our underdog pick of the week. I will let you go first, Jed.
All right, well, first I'm going to give you Wesley Riddles. Wes Riddle has John Linacre versus Brian Kelleher as your fight of the night. And his performances, he's taking Kelvin Gastelum, and he's taking Robertson, however you call it that. And his underdog pick is going to be Gastelum. So he's really leaning heavy on Kelvin Gastelum there. I going very different, nothing the same here. I'm taking Nunes Pennington as your fight of the night. Like I said, I think you're getting 5 rounds of it. I think Pennington's going to win at least a round. And so I think you're going to have a little bit of a back and forth, and that's going to be your Friday of the evening. My performance is I'm picking Vitor to get that early knockout. Got to get a performance bonus. I'm also picking Alexei Oleinik to get some type of weird-ass head and arm choke or Ezekiel or do something dope to Junior Baby Albini. So he's getting a performance bonus. And I'm taking Oleinik for my underdog because I feel very confident that he has taken out the baby. What about you, Nikolai?
Can you just remind me who Wes went for fight of the night?
Linacre Kelleher.
Okay. This is fight of the night. We'll start with that. It's a tough one. I mean, as crazy as this might sound, I still feel like Jacare versus Gastelum almost could be. Just because if Gastelum does survive, he might be able to make it a fight. But I can't go that. Nunes Pennington, as I said, not a terrible choice. Linacre Kelleher, not either. I am going to go with Leski dos Santos versus Strickland, though. I think that will be your fight of the night. I think it has a chance. Not super confident because when John Linacre fights, he's probably getting a bonus more often than not. And so, hey,
True.
You never know. For my performances, I'm going to go with, I guess, Jacare Souza and, let's see here. Jacare Souza and Carl Robertson.
Okay.
No, you know what? Yeah, Carl Robinson. No, that's tough.
You're already
John
picking
Lineker.
Robertson.
John
Go
Lineker.
with Robertson. You said it, and I
Fine,
don't want to.
fine. Carl Robertson and Jacques Souza. But if John Lineker gets one, blame
Which
on
one do you want? Pick
Carl
one now,
Robinson.
but commit to it. Commit
Carl
to it.
Robinson.
Final answer.
Carl Robinson.
Final answer.
John Lineker. Carl Robinson. Write it
All
down.
right. Underdog. You picked
Underdog.
two. You picked Olenek and Mina, and I believe that's the only ones you picked.
Well, I'm way more confident in one, and that would be the Russian himself, Alexei Olenek.
Love it. Love where you're at. It's a good underdog
Um,
pick. All right. All we got to do is do a little DK, and then we probably should say a couple of words about Bellator. I'm going to give you our DK teams for me and Wes real quick so we can just bang this out. Wes Riddle is taking Sultan Aliev, Kelvin Gastelum, Alberto Mina, Amanda Nunes, Marcus Perez, and Carl Robertson. That is impressive because you know what? He and I share one person.
same.
It is rare that we share so few players. Usually we've got a couple of overlaps going on between us. Maybe you and I'll have more. My team, Amanda Nunes, Vitor Belfort, Alexei Olenek, Carl Robertson, Jacare Souza, Sean Strickland.
Well, this will be very interesting because I share one with Wes, you share one with Wes, and we share only two.
Wow. Give me 1 second, and then I would love to hear your team because I'm pretty impressed that we have somehow managed to all be fairly different. That's exciting, guys. We're never
Yes.
different.
So
All right,
take a
what you got?
quick guess at the two we have the same. I'll give you one, Olenek.
All right.
That makes a lot of
Oh,
sense.
yeah. I was going to say, so you and I share two, right?
Yep.
You'd be Olenek and Nunes.
Nope.
Ooh, you don't have Nunes, huh?
I do not. So that is something that I'm breaking my own rule. I initially had Nunes on one of previous team, but I am not going with a main event fighter. So spoiler
Wow.
alert, I'm not picking Pennington either. So we
That
got
is
Olenek and Jacare Souza.
Souza. Yeah, I was about to say you picked Souza for a performance bonus, so probably Souza then, I would assume.
So Olenek is my underdog pick for DraftKings, but luckily for me, I actually think he'll win. And then, well, I actually do have one other underdog. That it will be Alberto Mina. So I
Okay.
think I share that with
You
Wes.
you share that with Wes, yeah.
Yeah. And then my other ones are all favorites: Worley Alves, John Lineker, and Eluzu Zaleski dos Santos.
So Alves, Lineker,
Zaleski dos
and
Santos.
then Dos Santos. All right. Well, we have a lot of diversity going on
You
here.
really do.
That's exciting. It's very rare that we have this much diversity. Also, first thing I'm noticing looking at your team here, your performance bonuses, you picked Jacare Souza and you picked Carl Robertson. Robertson is not on your DraftKings team. I don't know if maybe you want to rethink some things over there. Just saying.
Yeah, you got John Lineker.
You do have John Lineker, so one of those picks is wrong because if you think he's getting a bonus, he's definitely a DraftKings include. Just throwing that out there. So, teach their own. You do what feels good to you. But while you mull that over, I'm going to segue us. Also happening Saturday evening. The only reason I care a lot about this in general is because I am functionally the Bellator coverage guy for MMA fighting at this point in my career. It's the beat I picked to cover. And on Saturday night, I will be covering Bellator 199. As I said at the beginning of the show, me and Luke Thomas did a preview show for UFC 224. You should go check out. We are also doing a post-fight show on Saturday after both events. I'll be taking care of the heavy lifting on the Bellator side. Luke's going to take care of the heavy lifting on the UFC side, so check that out. And as a result, I'm going to give you a little bit on this Bellator card. So, Muhammad Lawal, King Mo taking on Ryan Bader in your main event. That is the final quarterfinal bout for the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. Nikolai, what do you think of the main event? We're just going to bang this out real quick.
The main event, I think Ryan Bader is going to win it. To be quite frank about it, I think Ryan Bader is probably the best wrestler King Mo has ever fought in his career. Do you think, a fair point?
I think he's probably the best fighter King Mo's ever fought in his career. Ryan Bader's good at fighting.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Ryan Bader has better
a lot
has
of shit, but he's actually like a really competent fighter.
Ryan Bader has more weights to win here. He's the bigger fighter. He's a lot taller. I remember when they stared down when they were supposed to fight back last year in New York City. I remember Bader was way taller. I assume the reach is there for him. He's a better striker. Bader has turned himself into a
All right, we're gonna
competent
stop
striker.
you here. This is a quick hits. We're not trying to talk a lot about this shit, and you are trying to go down a road. I agree. Bader has turned himself into a competent striker. I actually think this is a really good competitive match that I do think Bader is going to edge out. But Muhammad Lawal, a great wrestler, so he can contend there. Not an okay striker. I'm interested to see it. I actually think this is legitimately outside of my own vested interest in the card since I have to watch it. I do think this is one of Bellator's better efforts, and I'm really in on this heavyweight Grand Prix, so that's cool. Your co-main event, I actually don't know if your John Fitch Paul Daly's got to be your co-main event. John Fitch Paul Daly, any quick thoughts on that one?
I think John Fitch will win, but I think it's a coin toss fight. If Paul Daly keeps it standing, he'll probably knock John Fitch out. If John Fitch gets it to the ground, he'll probably grind out Paul Daly.
I mean, you have the contours right. I just don't think it's a coin flip. Basically, every time Paul Daly's fought a fighter like John Fitch, he's lost convincingly. I don't see why that would change here. A little bit of curious matchmaking for Bellator. We know Daly has said this week or last week recently that he thinks this might be punishment because he is on the outs with Bellator brass management. But and frankly, I a little bit agree. Like if you have Paul Daly in your stable, you shouldn't be matching him up against wrestlers unless you're like if you're the UFC, you feel some sort of compulsion to do that as a fighter works their way to a title shot. Like it would have been ridiculous for Conor McGregor to fight Jose Aldo without ever fighting one wrestler because that's just like untoward. But Bellator doesn't need to have those same issues. Just match Paul Daly up against dudes who want to throw hands. Like the Daly Michael Venom Page fight has been on like makeable forever. They should have just done that. I think Fitch is going to grind him out. Moving on, Aaron Pico Super Prospect. Whew, holy shit, that line is dropped. That can't be right. Does 5 Dimes really have that line that low? Aaron Pico is minus 185 at 5 Dimes. That can't possibly be accurate. That's got to be a glitch somewhere. If that's true, if you, dear listener, have a 5 Dimes account that you wouldn't have because it's not legal or whatever in America, you might be okay, Nick. If Aaron Pico really is at minus 185, he's like minus 800 everywhere else. So go hammer the shit out of that line if that's available for you. Any thoughts on Super Prospect Aaron Pico?
Just real quick, why did you say it might be okay for me?
Because you live in Canada. You guys have different gambling laws.
Right, so it's 18 in Canada.
Oh, okay. I mean, well like, so it's not like I can't legally gamble online.
Really?
Yeah. Not the only, I think like Vegas you can gamble and like Jersey, I think now you can gamble, but like sports betting is not a thing you're supposed to do.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Elsewhere.
Is DraftKings a thing?
DraftKings is a thing, but it's not considered gambling. It's like a very complicated legal minutia that they have argued that because fantasy sports are not like if you're like everybody plays fucking fantasy football, so they've grandfathered themselves in under the same guidelines that it's a skill game or whatever. Even though it's pretty obvious not. But that's aside from the point. Aaron Pico, any thoughts about Lee Morrison? Do you even know who Lee Morrison is?
No, I don't, and I don't think that really matters. Aaron Pico is going to win. I've picked against Aaron Pico twice in a row. I've paid for it. I haven't picked an Aaron Pico fight right because I picked him to beat Zach Freeman. He got choked out.
Incredible. That's incredible.
Yes, it really is. And I picked
you
against
are a hero.
Yeah, I'm 0-3 picking Aaron Pico fight, so I'm sure he'll lose this one. But give me Aaron Pico by first round knockout.
Do you have anything to say for Adam Piccolotti, Carrington Banks? Because I sure don't.
No, I really don't. More people on the Bloody Elbow staff predictions, which I was looking at earlier, actually are going with the undefeated Banks. I don't know much about him.
Good. Banks is pretty good, and yeah, like it's one of those fights that no one's gonna give a shit about. But Banks is actually a pretty good fighter, and Piccolotti is like you probably know his name. He's been around Bellator.
I know who Piccolotti is.
Yeah, you know who he is. Like, so it's a good test, but Banks is pretty good. He's gonna run through him. The last thing I will say, and this is completely self-serving, Czech Congo is taking on Javi Ayala. This fight was originally way back in the day. Ayala and Congo were announced as alternates for the heavyweight GP. Since Bellator got Krokop, and now Krokop's facing Roy Nelson next event at Bellator 200, Coker has said that's going to serve as the alternate bout for the GP. still this fight, maybe the winner of that does find a way to sneak into the GP, or nobody gets hurt at the GP. Maybe the winner of this fight ends up taking on the Crow Cop Nelson winner to be the first heavyweight title challenger after the GP. Things are at foot here. Here's a couple of factoids you probably don't know, but I do, because I spoke to Javier Ayala earlier this week. One, Czech Congo has had like 12 fights in Bellator. He is like rapidly approaching the same number of fights in Bellator as the UFC, which is super wild because I never would have thought of that. He is also the longest tenured heavyweight in Bellator history. He has more fights than any other heavyweight in Bellator history. How wild is that?
Can you? I didn't.
You weren't even paying attention. Exactly. Nope. Czech Congo has more fights in Bellator heavyweight history than anyone else.
Wow.
Isn't that weird? Because it doesn't seem like he's fought there a bunch, but he super has. Ayala is tied for second on that list. So this is two of the longest tenured heavyweights who just got left out of the fucking heavyweight GP. Because Scott Coker's a hero. Awesome. More to the fact, Ayala is actually a pretty fun fighter. If this stays standing, I think it'll be fun. And really, the reason I'm saying this is I have a feature on Ayala coming out tomorrow. I think it's at noon. It might be at like 2. You should go to MMAfighting.com and read that, because Javier Ayala is a very nice dude and a good guy to talk to. So yeah, go do that and support my work, you fuckers.
Yeah. Wait, so are you picking Ayala or Congo?
I don't know. I want to pick Ayala just because I talked to him. I'm going to pick Ayala. Congo's old. What's going to happen is Congo's going to do that thing where he doesn't kickbox with somebody. He just tackles them and beats the shit out of them. And Ayala doesn't have super great takedown defense, but I like Ayala. He was fun to talk to. And if, he was beating the shit out of Roy Nelson when that fight was on the feet. Like, he was beating that ass, but Roy Nelson can take a good shot, so it didn't work out for him. Congo takes much less good of a shot. He's like 42. So I'm going to say that Congo gets lamped and Ayala gets to do something cool, hopefully, because then my piece will be a lot cooler if he wins than if he loses. So, we out, bitches.
Who's the guy who lost to Matt Mitrione in Mitrione's debut? That wasn't Ayala, was it?
No, it wasn't, but I don't know who.
This is the guy that knocked out Sergey Karatanov.
Yeah, this is the guy who knocked out Sergey Karatanov in like 16 seconds. Yeah. Bellator debut, Carl Seumanutafa. Seumanutafa. That's how it's got to be. That is who Matt Mitrione lost to. That was at Bellator Dynamite. Was that the kickboxing thing or was that MMA? I don't know.
That was MMA. Anyways, real quick, I'm changing my DraftKings. I'm changing Warley Alves to Carl Robertson.
There you go. That's my boy. Way to do big things.
And I have $400 remaining. I don't think I'm going to use it though, so I don't.
That's fine. That's one of the tricks about DraftKings. You don't always have to use every dollar, guys. You got to make the best team. Doesn't matter how many dollars. So Alves is now Robertson.
Correct.
All right, so that means you and I now share 3.
Yep.
Robertson, Olenek, and Souza.
Yep.
So it's So my team is Belfort, Strickland, Nunes versus your Dos Santos, Linacre, Mina. I like it because I'm not picking any of those people. I'm picking Linacre, but I'm not picking the other ones.
Yeah, and so really,
this is going to outscore Linacre. So if my picks are right,
Belfort will for sure lose. There's a chance Mina loses, and then we have Leski Dos Santos versus Strickland, and then it's Linacre versus who's your other one again?
Nunes,
yeah. Linacre Nunes could be close. And then Zaleski. This really could come down to
It's going to be up. It's going to be exciting.
Well, all right. Well, that's it for episode 107 of Before the Battle. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. If you enjoy the show, and even if you didn't, go give us a big thumbs up down there and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Once we're out of here, go click the MMA Circus button somewhere down there, and then click the subscribe button at the very top of the page. And I would greatly appreciate that. If you have any feedback, good or bad, for the show, drop a comment down in the comment section down below, and I will reply to you if need be. Jed, it's been 3 weeks. People might be, a little rusty as far as where they can find us, so remind them.
You can find me on the Twitter machine at JedKMeshew. You should follow me there. I just got a rush of new followers, so you too can join the movement. Really be part of a family with the Jed Meshew Twitter experience. I also think I'm getting functionally way better at Twitter lately. So I'm tweeting a little less volume, a little more quality. I think that that's a good thing. So follow me on Twitter. That's important. Follow my work at MMAfighting.com. When I say follow my work, I mean follow all of it. Not just the morning report, which comes out Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. every single day. Also, follow this weekend, tomorrow. Like I said, I got the Javi Ayala feature coming up. Check that out. I've got the gambling column coming tomorrow. Check that out. Me and Luke Thomas broke down UFC 224. That's out right now. Go watch that video. It's the best 20 minutes of your life. And tomorrow evening, after all is said and done, after Bellator 199 and UFC 224, once again, me and Luke Thomas are going, the two best minds in the game, if we're being honest with ourselves. I mean, if we're just being just brass tacks, no prisoners, honest with ourselves, the two best minds in the MMA space are going to be talking to you about what just occurred. Luke's probably going to be way better at it than I am. I'm going to come in with hot takes from the rafters about who should be cut, how Amanda Nunes actually is terrible at fighting, despite the fact that she just KO'd Rocky Pennington in 3 seconds. It's going to be awesome. Tune in. I love you all. Goodbye.
There you go. You guys can, I was going to say something, but can't remember what it, oh no, I was going to mention, so since we last spoke, Jed, you've changed your Twitter name to Dr. Jed Meshew.
I am a doctor.
Esquire.
I am a doctor, so I just decided to lean into it. Yeah. I have a doctorate.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
I have a doctorate. So I
actually Jed Meshew second?
Yeah. I sign whenever I sign like official documents, like court documents or whatever, I always sign doctor because I think it's funny. So I just decided I was going to lean into it. Because I just
like when Pat Wyman got his doctorate for the first time, and
yeah, he's a doctor too. We are both doctors. Yeah. I'll tell you what, you're not getting a lot of other doctors in the MMA sphere. Me and Pat Wyman holding it down.
Yep, and definitely none on before the battle. So it's a pleasure to have you.
You
really is.
Are welcome.
It's an honor. It's an honor to be able to speak with you. Almost
in the words of Chael P. Sonnen, you're welcome.
You guys can find me on the Twitter at Nick Baldwin MMA. You can find all of my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. You can find all of my audio interviews on this YouTube channel. Once again, go hit that like button. Go subscribe somewhere over here. And I would greatly appreciate that. Go check out all my stuff. Since we last did this show, you can also check out my other podcast, the MMA Circus. But since I last did the show, I've done quite a few interviews, although I've slowed down a little bit. Talked to Art Davey a week ago, the UFC co-founder. Who else did I talk to? Let's see. It's loading. Kevin Lee, just after his win. Rob Font, Louis Smolka. He's coming off a win on the regional circuit. Next week, I will be interviewing Gegard Mousasi before his title fight at Bellator 200. So go check that out when it's up and when it's all ready to go. Oh, and I also spoke with Julian Marquez, who fights at the Ultimate Fighter 27 finale.
He's cool, isn't he?
Yes, Julian Marquez.
I like Julian a lot.
I like Julian as well.
I really like him a lot.
And meeting him in Winnipeg last December was fantastic. That was the first time I spoke. All right, that is it. Thank you all for watching. Enjoy the fights tomorrow night, Bellator 199 and UFC 214. Thanks again, and enjoy the fights.
Love you guys.